Today is August 5th, 2013, 3:25 p.m., and we're sitting with Gordon Grandbouche. Is that his name?
That's correct.
All right, yeah, so if you don't mind starting with where you were born, we can start with that.
I was born in Gurley, Nebraska, G-U-R-L-E-Y.
Okay. All right. And how long did you live there?
About 6 years.
Okay.
From there we moved to Hayden.
Oh, you moved to Hayden.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
My father was in the grain business in Nebraska and had an opportunity to come to Hayden and run that elevator in 1941.
Okay.
And was there until 58. Was gone a few years and then came back a few years.
Okay.
And as a young boy, I hung around the elevator a lot, kind of learned the business. At that time, a lot of small farms. Wheat was worth about 50 cents a bushel when he went there. And then it improved a little bit. And then, right after the war, the price of wheat just boomed, and the ranchers expanded, the farmers, primarily the farmers.
Okay.
So we started seeing larger equipment and bigger farms, and price very good, pretty productive area, all a period of time all through the 50s, and there was a lot of primarily wheat raised, but they did raise barley and oats, particularly in the Steamboat area and some around Hayden.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot of job opportunities for high school kids because of a lot of on-farm work.
Okay.
So it's quite a lot of unemployment for some. There's a lot of hay put up and a lot of tractor driving and et cetera. So that made it pretty nice. A lot of young people learned some trades, how to operate equipment and things like that. So that was a good period of time that way.
Okay.
Also, there was a lot of dairies in the area, so there was a lot of feed that was used locally. There was about 3 dairies in Steamboat, 3 in Hayden, and maybe that many in Craig. I'm not sure, but about that. So a lot of feed processed locally.
Okay. And what was the area like when you moved here? What do you remember about it? About Hayden?
Oh, it was a town of about 600, I suppose, at that time.
Okay.
Just good common folk. I don't know what. You know, we had the minimal things as most small towns do. You got your grocery store and a few gas stations.
Okay. Good school. Any large-scale farms out there?
They began in the 50s to get fairly large.
They began in the 50s. Okay.
But prior to that, relatively small.
Okay.
But from then on, they started growing, and some of the older folks selling out, and younger people expanded by picking up some of the ground.
Okay.
And some new ground also broke out, so
right.
It was increased acres, yeah.
Okay. And where did you attend school?
At Hayden.
In Hayden. Okay. Through high school?
Through high school, or all through school, yeah.
All through school.
Yeah.
Okay. Were those one-room schoolhouses?
No, there's the combined school.
Combined school.
Had a separate grade school and a separate high school.
Okay. So you lived in Hayden all through high school?
Yes.
And each year you would each summer you'd go out and work on a different farm, or you work on your family's
I worked
farm?
on different farms, different people. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
What was that like when you were young?
Oh, I enjoyed it.
What type of responsibilities did they give you?
Oh, tractor driving trucks. 13, 14 years old, you get by driving around with the smaller trucks, haul grain, anything like that.
Okay. And that was common for a lot of people?
Oh, yeah.
Boys and girls?
Well, probably the boys more in that particular industry.
Okay.
I think it was probably easier for them. The haying jobs and things like that were more readily available.
Okay. Did they pay you well for being?
Oh, at that time was satisfied, I guess.
Yeah.
I was happy to have it. It worked.
Okay. And most of the farming was barley and oats primarily, or wheat?
Wheat was a big
Wheat was the big one.
Yeah, barley was second, and some of it was.
Okay. Okay. And so what did you do after high school?
I went to CSU, had a degree in geology.
Okay. And then did you come back to Hayden?
I went into the service, and then after the service I came back to Hayden, and I worked again in the elevator for a short period of time.
Okay. So all told, how long were you gone then from the area?
Well, a couple of years in the service, and
Okay.
maybe a year, half a year, 2.5 years in that.
So when you were in school, you were
Oh, yeah.
with okay. When you came back, were there any major changes? Anything you noticed was different?
Oh, I can't say I can think of anything particular that was major difference. Pretty much the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
In any of that time, did you ever travel to Craig at all?
Oh yeah, sure.
How did it compare to Hayden?
Oh, we thought it was a big deal.
It was big. Okay. Okay.
Come here to the little shopping, and of course they had the drive-in theater and the other movie theater, a couple of movie theaters, so that was a good deal for us.
Okay. This might be a silly question, so excuse me if it is. Any farming rivalries? Anyone competing to be the biggest production of wheat or barley or oats?
I don't think it's a rivalry as
Nothing
such.
rivalry.
It's just at the period of time when things are expanding and the guys are making money and they could buy land or buy bigger equipment as it came out and then they expanded. There got to be several good-sized farms in Hayden area, and then here in Moffat County there's some really good-sized ones.
Okay.
Out here where the power plant was, that was all planted to wheat.
Okay.
And both sides of the road there, so that was a big area. Some in the Gil Evans and Marvin Barnes each had ground out there.
Okay. So you came back from the service, you went back to the elevator, you said, and worked there for a couple of years?
Not that long, probably a year or so.
Okay.
And then we came to Craig and bought an elevator here in Craig.
Oh, you bought your own here. Okay.
That's in '67 at this point.
And what all type of equipment entails a full elevator? What all does that do?
Well, the producer brings the grain in, we weigh it on the scale, truck weight. We dump it into bins and separate it by the quality,
Okay.
just protein and grades and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we ship it to Pillsbury, General Mills, other flour companies that are in the market for it.
Okay.
Loaded on railroad cars.
So, do you have an agreement or a contract with one specific company, or are you allowed to just
Oh, no.
whoever buys it?
highest bidder.
Okay, highest bidder, so whoever wants it, they bid highest.
They would get the best money they could for it, with no commitment.
Any particularly competitive years for that?
Well,
maybe not specific year, but times you can remember.
Oh, I think that the people we were dealing with, it was always competitive all through that period. I don't
Okay.
think there was any time that it wasn't. We had a period here, probably in the 70s, late 70s, where they grew some durum, which would be, it's a different type of grain that they use for macaroni and spaghetti. It's called durum, D-R-H-U-M.
Okay.
And Pillsbury was the only one buying it here, but General Mills would buy it and would ship it up into Idaho.
Okay.
That was kind of a short-lived project for about 3 or 4 years, and then they couldn't get enough of that particular grain here, so they had some changes and just went back to the regular wheat.
Okay. Along with those competitive years and trying the different crops and whatnot, were there any particularly rough times in terms of droughts?
Oh yeah,
It was mostly dryland farming that you
all
did?
dry, all dry land.
All dryland
Yeah,
farming.
so yeah, we certainly had some years. Couldn't tell you which ones, but
That's fine.
they're come along about every 3 or 4 years, so you'll have a pretty tough one. And then we had the prices on grain got really poor for a while. They got really difficult for the farmers to make a living,
Why was that?
just because of the prices.
Okay.
Why were the prices low?
Yeah.
Too much wheat worldwide.
Too much production.
Too much production.
Okay. So at that time, when there was too much production, did farming subsidies ever come in the area in general? Maybe not.
Yeah, they had several different programs through the years where there was some subsidy, but it was not too major, really. Kept them in business, I guess.
Now, were those subsidies short term?
Yeah, they generally were very year to year.
Okay.
But maybe run a couple of years, but there were some subsidies.
So they wouldn't necessarily take someone out of competition for the long haul. What I'm thinking is, like along the lines that there are 5 people and a couple people taking off subsidies, and then you have a couple good years, those other people prosper more.
People that weren't on the subsidies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody that produced would be on a subsidy based on what they produced, so it'd be so much a bushel. So everybody would have it. It wasn't just an individual farm.
Okay.
But then the government changed that formula year to year.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually it came to what you probably hear of the CRP, Conservation Reserve Program.
Mm-hmm.
And that's at one time, I think, this figure's close, between Routt and Walker County, there was about 60,000 acres of wheat planted.
Okay.
And then after the Conservation Reserve Program went in, there was a tremendous amount went to that program where they planted grass and took it out of wheat. And they got a payment for that. So I'm guessing, but I would say, and that program is still in effect.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that right now, the total acres might be something like 15,000.
Wow.
Just an estimate, but I wouldn't miss it very far. So it's had a big impact.
Wow.
And that happened all over the country, so wheat production was reduced nationwide, and prices have gradually increased because of that. So those that are in it now with a decent year can make a fair living. It's
Okay.
hard, but they can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long did you own your elevator in your business?
43 years.
Okay. Okay. 43 years. And did the influx in population here from the boom affect anything you were doing with your business?
Oh, indirectly, you get a lot of population outside of town that bought in 40-acre plots and stuff like that at one time were farmed. So there's a lot of ground that was taken out that way too. So yeah, it affected us, but a lot of development.
But it was up to individuals to sell that land, or was it just up for grabs before?
No, just demand for 40 acres.
Right.
Being out of town was great, and they get good money for their ground.
Okay.
And sell off pieces of it, so it's pretty common in all the outlying area around. As you get further out, not so much, but close to town.
Right.
But you can see it whenever you drive around. There's houses scattered all over.
Okay. So at the time it was more lucrative almost to sell your land?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's within reason. I mean, there's people that stayed in farming, but that have something that maybe not the best piece of property, but was also a revenue for them. They get a good chunk of money and pay off debt and things like that. So,
okay. So as selling land became a way kind of to supplement income if you're selling it away.
Well, yeah, there's some places where it was the whole place was subdivided and moved, because that was more money than ever make on farming.
Okay. Did that period of time ever stop?
No, it's ongoing.
It's ongoing?
Sure.
Okay. Even as the population decreased after the boom?
Probably at a slower rate, but there's still a lot of developments. You can drive around and see houses going up someplace, almost all the time.
Okay.
But not like the present. Earlier.
Okay. Just gonna write a couple notes real quick. All right. How was your operation through the 43 years? How were there any? Go ahead.
We had some good years, we had some tough years.
Yeah, okay.
Like
anyone.
Like any business, we have a drought and dry year, and we don't get much rain in. The costs are still about the same as far as employees or taxes, etc. So those years are tough. And then you throw in a few good years, that's above average. It's a lot of hard work for a lot of years. Finally ended up all right.
Okay. How has employment changed over the years in terms of the number of employees you need versus the amount of technology you're bringing in?
Employees I had mostly part-time employees. I'd had maybe one full-time employee, and then I'd had high school boys that would work the rest of the year during the harvest period. And that was pretty constant right up to the end. I began doing more of it myself as the acres decreased. I could handle a lot of it myself with just maybe one person. At one time we'd have maybe 5 or 6 kids,
Okay.
So it changed that way.
So there's always a ready workforce. It's just seasonal work.
It's seasonal.
Okay. And how has technology kind of changed what your production capabilities are on a larger scale farm?
Well, I suppose the biggest thing for the farmer is the bigger equipment. A man can do more work with one tractor than you could with 3 or 4.
Okay.
It's just scale.
Right. And most of the farming around here is the dry land farming, right?
Yes.
Is that
farming? It is,
harder than the irrigated farming?
Oh no, I think irrigated farming is harder work, but we don't have the water here for irrigation. We got mountainous places that you can't irrigate. They have some pretty level ground or sprinkler systems. It's just not that kind of water available. I don't think it'd be economical here probably.
Right. Okay. we've heard a lot now, and I was wondering if you could speak to this too. With the farming subsidies that have happened, and like you mentioned before, with it being more lucrative to sell parts of your land because you'd make more selling it than maybe farming it, we've also heard about this trend in outfitting and doing the hunting. What have you seen with regards to that?
Yeah, I think that's, haven't ever been involved in it, but my understanding is, that can be a very, very good business. It's usually somebody's in that guide business, maybe lease your ground, and you get some opportunity for revenue there. Some cases are real good, depending on location.
Right. Do you know how that process works? Could you explain how that would work, just if we wanted to go hunt somewhere? Well,
basically, a lot of these outfitters, once they get a clientele, it's a continuous thing, so they may or may not have room for. But if they have somebody, they have a certain fee for elk or deer, or depending on how good the location is, how easy it is to get one, how much work they do, or they just say you can hunt over here, or we'll take you hunting, we'll show it, we'll point it out, we'll pack it out, so how much services you want, how much guiding you want will depend. We'll give you the idea of the cost. The more services they provide, the more it's going to cost. There's some people just give you a permit and say, here's 600 acres, hunt till you get something, there's going to be 3 other people in here.
Okay. And this has become fairly widespread, would you say?
Well, yeah, that's a pretty good hunting area, so there's quite a few people involved in it.
Okay.
I don't know too many farmers that do the guiding themselves, but they lease out their ground or to a hunter, to a guider, or allow some hunters on for some fee.
Right. So the farmers actually lease to the outfitter, and then the outfitter finds their clientele.
Most of the time it's that way, anything of any consequence.
Does the farmer get a cut from the hunters?
Well, if he leases it to the guide outfit, that guide outfit will pay him so much, just a flat fee probably.
Oh, and then he keeps
it. It could be set in her way, but it's a flat fee, so then the farmer's out of it, and the guider takes care of all the problems. There may be some of them that set it up so much for the land and so much for every kill, but I don't think that's too common. I think it's more a flat fee sort of thing. I'm not overly familiar with it, but that's basically.
That's no problem. No, I just appreciate any information because I've been interested in how that works. Okay. In the town in general, how have you seen the town of Craig change over the years?
Well, from a lot of small businesses to a few small businesses and several large businesses. I mean, we used to have 3 drugstores, you had the shoe store, and you had dress stores, and men's stores, all of them mom-and-pop sort of operations. So that's a big change.
Right.
You go to your Kmart and your Walmarts and your supermarkets, where it used to be small grocery stores. That's a big change. And of course, a lot of housing, but that's a lot of that's based off of the plant and the mines. A lot of people work for those industries, so we have quite a few new homes.
Right. Do you have any children?
Yeah, I have 3 children.
What was it like raising a family in Craig?
Well, we all went to school in Hayden. This is before I moved down.
Oh, I see.
But it's a good atmosphere. They had a good school and got to participate in things. So I think Craig probably the same way.
Right. What types of activities do you do for recreation here or in Hayden with your family, either way?
Well, when I was growing up, we did some skiing, and we did a lot of snowmobiling for years. Our family really did a lot of
Okay.
snowmobiling. Had a lot of good friends in that, so there's probably 10 years in there where we some of the family still does it.
Right. Okay. Do you have anything you want to add? Do you have any particular stories or anything that you would like to have recorded? Anything you'd like people to remember or people know, or you'd like to listen to yourself say later on?
I'd have to think about that a little bit.
That's no problem.
Comes to mind right now.
Okay. Well, it might interrupt your train of thought, but while you're thinking, how do you feel about the current state of Craig now? Politically or economically, just how you would like to speak about that?
It's a little hard for me to judge, I guess. I'm not in the circles right now that I'm really talking to that many business people or anything. I think from a lot of the small businesses, this is just an opinion, I don't know, but if I go down Main Street and look at all the small stores, I wonder how they make it. That's what I think, but I don't know if that's the case. They may be done well, but
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
You take, when you put a Walmart in, you suck a lot of business out of a lot of small business. And personally, I don't like to see it. I mean, I think you had more atmosphere and more community feeling when you had individual owners with the small shops and accommodations that they would do, and people they would help during tough times, that sort of stuff. I think those things are probably missing. But as you get older, you tend to think of those things in different ways.
Right.
Young people like the bigger things, and not that they don't use Walmart or something, but I mean, I think that's probably a big change.
Right. So commercialization has really kind of come in and taken the personal feel out of Craig.
Well, I think large commercial means.
What about the people?
All the people are good solid people, and like any small town, they have their own conflicts, but I think they overall are pretty cohesive. The support for schools pretty good, and the teams. They have a lot of activities. The city does well with their programs, and have a lot of things going on.
Right.
Nice parks, pretty good recreation.
Right.
They're a small town. They do pretty well that way.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not a very fast writer. Okay. Yeah. If you don't have anything else to add.
No, not really.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Sure.